starts, there it goes. All right, so let's actually do some geometry for the first time this year. And September's almost over. How about that? But that's okay. I don't mind doing that algebra review because it's really going to help you in the future. And believe me, I will tell you many, many times when we start doing the algebra in a geometry class, I'll say, hey, remember we did this back in our algebra review? Now we're doing it, okay? All right, here we go. Everybody awake? Everybody eyes open, heads up? All right, good. We're going to do 3 undefined terms. Now, they're undefined, so I'm not going to define them. Why not? Because they are undefined. You can't really define them, but I am going to describe them for you, all right? I am going to tell you right now, the very first thing that we do So, I'm going to tell you right now, the first question on the quiz, the first geometry quiz we take, and I'm telling you the first question on the test, the major test on Chapter 1 that we're going to take. Right now, here it is. Okay, write it down. Know this for the quiz, know this for the test. Okay, we are going to learn 3 undefined terms. I'm going to give you the words right now, then we're going to talk about them. Here it is. This is number 1 on the quiz. You're going to have to get all 3. It's not 3. It's not numbers 1, 2, and 3. Okay. This is one problem on the quiz. It's the very first one, and it's also the very first one on the test. All right. So here they are. The 3 undefined terms. One is point. Second one is line. And our third one is plane. And again, there's no definition for it. But I am going to describe it for you. So, and here's one thing I won't give you on a quiz or a test in geometry. I'm not going to say, define this word, and you got to like memorize a definition and write it down. All right? I'm not going to do that. Okay, but I am going to expect you to be able to label a point correctly, a line correctly, and a plane correctly. So let's just talk about that more than anything. So let's do the first one, a point. A point, if I put a dot, that represents a point. It's not actually a point, but it represents where a point is. Because a point has no length and it has no thickness. It has no size whatsoever. So a point has no size. Now this is not a definition. I'm just telling you a couple things about the point. It has no size, which means it has no what? Length. And it has no, what's the other one I said? Thickness. Thickness. Now look, if I zoomed into that point right there, watch. If I zoom in, it definitely looks like it's got some thickness and some width, doesn't it? But that thing right there is not really the point. It just shows where the point is located. So a point is so small, you can't even measure it. All right? Let's go back to this. All right, so it's kind of weird. But it just represents one place in space. All right, so like, bam, that place right there, that's a point. Okay, this is a point. This is a point up here. All right? But if we're going to draw it, it's got to have a little bit of length, right? And a little bit of thickness, especially like a pencil, right? It comes up a little bit. It's kind of thick, and it's got some width to it. It's got some length to it. So the actual dot that we draw definitely has some size, but it represents a place that doesn't have any size. All right? I know, it's kind of weird. But here's what's really important about a point. If I put a capital letter next to that dot, that represents that point, and that's the name of that point. So it has to be a capital letter. Write that down. Okay, uppercase, capital, whatever you want to call it. All right, so that's a capital P, and this is point P, and that's how we say it. If you just have one single letter, one single capital letter, like A, what would I say for this? This would be called point what? A. Point A. What if I had a Q? And that's all I had. I just have one capital letter Q just sitting there. What do I know that represents? I know it represents a what? A point. That's right. So I would call this what? Point Q. Point Q. All right? So anytime you have just a capital letter and nothing else, then we consider that to be a point. All right? You don't have to do this. I had people in my honors class. They were going, I don't know, some question on the quiz or something says, tell me what point does this, I don't know, something like that. And then they would put a dot and a capital A. Do you need that? No, you don't need the dot. All right? If I was going to describe a point, then I wouldn't need the dot. All right? So this is what we say. I'm going to put it in quotation. So if you just see an A just sitting there by itself with nothing next to it, that's a point. That's point A. Same thing with this. And I could use all the letters of the alphabet, but I'm not going to. All right? What's that? It's all in the book, yeah. All this stuff I'm taking is from the book, yep. But I'm not like reading the book word for word. You know what I mean? I just picked out, see, I make my own notes right here. So I just pick out what I think is important. So I never do that. Hardly ever do I sit, okay, let's read, the first paragraph. Zion, you start, read. We don't do that in here, all right? Some classes do, and that's fine, but we don't do that in here. I just pick and choose what I want, and it is all from the book, okay? All right, so we go with a point. So if I just see like an M, and you just see an M sitting there, all right, and it's in a sentence or something, it's just a capital M, it's a point, right? And we would say point M. Everybody got that? Yeah, pretty easy. All right, so now let's, I'll get rid of this just for the sake of space here. All right, let's talk about a line. Well, a line is basically just made up of a whole bunch of points right next to each other, all right? Again, it's not really a definition. Here's what a description, again, it's not a definition because these are all what kind of terms? Undefined terms. They're undefined, which means they don't really have a definition. But we could describe them, okay? We could talk about them. So a line is described as a set of points extending infinitely. What does that mean, infinitely? Keeps on going forever. That's right. Keeps on going forever and ever in one dimension with no width and no thickness. Again, it can't have any width or thickness because it's made up of a whole bunch of points. And points don't have width or thickness. Everybody with me on that? All right, so a line doesn't have it. But how could I draw a line if it doesn't have any width or thickness to it? You wouldn't be able to see it, would you? So we draw something that looks like a line. It's just straight, okay, but it keeps going in which direction? Just the right? Just the left? In both directions. It extends infinitely. So that would be a line right there, okay? It doesn't have to be like flat, horizontal. Are you taking any notes, Ben? Yeah. You sure? I don't see it. You could have a line that looks like this. You could have a line that looks like this. It could go all directions. Can you have a line that looks like this? No, it's not a straight. That's not straight, okay? It's got to be straight. And of course, what does a line need at the ends? An arrow, okay? We are going to talk, let's see, we're going to talk about it today. No, we're not going to talk about it today, but we are going to talk about a thing that doesn't have arrows on the ends, but not today. So those are all lines. Well, we got to be able to describe a line. All right, so let's go back to point. So like if I had a dot here, and a dot here, and I said that point is A, this one is B, this one is C. That describes that point. This right here is what? Point A. What's that one? Point B, and what's that point? Point C. Well, I got three different lines here. I got to name them, don't I? So there's a couple ways I can name them. One way is to name them with 2 points that are on that line. All right? So what if I put a dot right there? I'll tell you what, let's go different colors so it stands out a little bit. Let's go blue. All right, so watch. What if I put a point right here and a point right here? Now, if I don't put a capital letter next to it, am I able to name that line? No, because I don't know what we can call it. We'll start super easy. I'll put an A here and a B here. You know what that A represents? It represents that point. It's the name of that point, okay? That's the name of that point. What does this do? It's the name of that point right there, okay? Now, of course, it has nothing to do with these. Don't worry about those, all right? So right here, if I know at least 2 points on that line, I can name that line. Take a wild guess on what you think we're going to name that line. Point AB? AB line? What would be a better way to say it? We said point A or point B, so we call it line what? AB. Very good. We would call it line AB. Now let me show you how we do it. Okay, this is very important. Abdul, get your head up, please. Tap him, please, on the shoulder, Lonnie. Abdul, wake up. All right, I'm going to write you past to Mr. Sarek. Would you like that? Okay, you got to get your head up and pay attention. You got to write this down. Write this down. Okay, we're not playing that in here. I'm not playing head down on the table, all right, and you're not causing any trouble, so big deal. All right, I want you paying attention because you're going to see this stuff on a quiz and a test, and I don't want you to say, well, I never heard this. I didn't know it. Okay, so I want everybody looking up here paying attention. This is basic stuff that we're going to use the rest of the book. The stuff we're talking about, points and lines and planes, are going to be used like in every single chapter, the whole entire book. All right, so it's super important that you pay attention. Ben, would you like to go to Mr. Sarek and do that noise for him? Okay, maybe do a little talent show for him. So stop doing it. I know it's you, so stop it. And I'm doing exactly what you wanted me to do. You wanted me to stop and address you, and you be the attention. All right? That's why you did it, because you wouldn't do it. All right? You just wanted to bug me, and congratulations, you won. You bugged me. You made me stop. Okay? But you're not going to bug me for much longer, because you're going to be out of here in a second. Okay? Enough of that. And I'm recording all this. All right. What was I saying? Line AB. We're going to call this line AB. Now, I'm not going to write the word line. Okay, there's a little symbol that we use to represent a line. So what we do is we take any 2 points on the line. Now, right now, we only know 2 of them. So what are my only choices I could use? A and B. Okay, I'm going to use A and B. I'm going to use both of them. So you're only going to use 2. What if I had like 5 different points on that line? Am I going to write all 5 points? I'm just going to pick any 2. Any 2, right? So if I had a whole bunch of other points on here, I can just pick any 2 points on that line to name that line. And it doesn't matter what order, what direction I go, right? I don't have to go AB. What's another way I could call this? BA. But watch what I'm going to do. Just a second. I'm going to put an arrow over top, a line and an arrow. This right there, that right there, if you see that, that means what? What would you say? You would say, and you said it earlier for me, it's line AB. Donnell, question. If, what was the last part? No. Just with 1 point, you can't name it. I mean, you can make a line and have only 1 point on it. Like, watch. If you had 1 point, that was P. But I can't name that line. All right? I can't say it's line P. Everybody got that? I got to have how many points? Got to have 2. All right? At least 2. All right? 1 is not at least 2. All right? I got to have at least 2. So I cannot name this line anything right now. But what if I put a Q right there? Now could I name that line? Yeah, what would it be named? Well, what would we say first? Line PQ, or go the other way, right? Line QP. So I could name this line AB, or I could name it what? Line BA. It really doesn't make any difference. Make sure though, see that symbol on the top? It's a straight line with arrows on both ends, all right? So make sure that you put that. Now this one's slanted. Do I have to like slant the line like that to show what direction it's slanted? No. I still just put a flat line over top of it, okay? So I can name this line PQ, all right? What if, again, like I mentioned, what if you had an R, an S, and a T? And if I asked you to name this, pick how many? Pick 2 of them, right? And excuse me. And it doesn't matter which 2. Doesn't make a difference. It doesn't make a difference what order you put it in. Man. All right, so it doesn't make any difference. So give me some names we could call this. We could call it R what?
Line RS.
Line RS. Line RT.
Line ST.
I could call line ST. And then I could just do the same thing but go backwards, right? I could call it line SR, could call it, if I could speak, line TR, and I could call it, what's the other one I didn't do? TS, right? I could call it any of those, all right? So if I have multiple points on there, just pick two. Do I want to call it line RST? No. Do not use 3. Only use how many? 2. We getting this straight so far? Yeah. This is super important, okay? This is not just, well, it's just the first thing. It's not that important. No, you're going to use this, this whole entire course. So that's really, really important. Okay. So that's pretty much, oh, here's another thing about line. Almost forgot. What if I draw another line? I'll just slant it a little bit like that. Doesn't matter. Here's another way that you could name a line. Let's say that there's no points. I shouldn't say there's no points on there because every line has a lot of points on it. In fact, it's got an infinite number of points on it, right? Because it keeps going forever and ever and ever. But let's say that I don't have any points labeled on that line. Here's another way that you could name the line. Sometimes they do this. Sometimes they put a lowercase letter, so like a lowercase a. A lowercase, like on one of the ends. You wouldn't put it in the middle. You wouldn't put a point and a lowercase. You wouldn't do that. Oops. But if you had a lowercase either here or here, okay, that's another way that you could name a line. Sometimes that makes it a little bit easier. If you have a whole bunch of lines and you're trying to, instead of saying line AB, line XY, line RQ, you can just say, oh, line A, line M, line L. Austin, please stop. All right, so we could use a lowercase letter, lowercase letter, and we could call that what? What would I call that? How would I say it? I would just say line A, right? It's not a capital A, but we would say line A. You'll see that quite often. I'd say most of the time, I don't know, most or not, yeah, probably most of the time, you'll probably see a couple points on there, and you'll call this like DE or something, all right? So you could call this two things, couldn't you? You could call it what? Line DE, or you could call it line A. Now, if you don't have the points, if you don't know these points right there, and you're going to call this line A, don't do this. Watch. Don't put A with a little line over top of it. We don't ever see that. All right? You would actually write the word out, line A, if you were to describe that line. Everybody with me on that? Don't just put a little A by itself, put the word line in front of it. But if you had 2 points on here, then this is the way that you would name that line. This is what a lot of geometry, especially at the beginning of the lessons, when they teach us something new, they teach a lot of vocabulary. They will teach us some definitions. We are going to do some definitions, probably maybe the next class. I thought we would finish this today, but giving out the books and stuff took a little longer. But this is what we do. We learn some new words. We learn some definitions. We learn how to label stuff. We're going to be labeling a lot of different things, a whole bunch of different things, okay? So it's really important that you know how to label them because that's going to be part of your quiz and test questions. You say, name that line, and you got to look at it and name it properly. You got to put the right, you got to put the right symbols and stuff for it, okay? Let's do one more. Let's do plane. Oops. Now, a plane is a lot of times drawn like this. Now, don't draw that right now because I'm going to do something to it in a second here. I'm going to transform, then I'm going to go to this, make it like 30 degrees. There we go. So a lot of times, when they draw a plane, they usually draw it like this. It's kind of like a rectangle, but kind of like a slanted rectangle, all right? Again, in my geometry class, there might be a question that says, draw a plane with line L that intersects the plane or something like that. It'll ask you to draw a plane. And then I had a lot of kids, I don't know why, but I had a lot of kids draw a plane like this. I didn't mark it wrong, okay, because I guess you could do that. But almost every time in the book that you see a plane, it's going to be like a slanted four-sided figure, okay? It's going to be slanted like this. That's the way it's going to look, all right? Now, what a plane is, if a line is a whole bunch of points, then a plane is a whole bunch of lines. That's right. So a plane would be like this screen right here. See how it's flat? It's a flat surface. That's basically what a plane is. So if you look in here, there's a lot of planes in here. The ceiling would be considered a plane. It's just a flat surface. And guess what? Our ceiling stops right there. But what does an actual plane do? If it's made of a bunch of lines, the plane, what do you think? Keeps going forever and ever and ever. So the ceiling represents where a plane is, but it's not the entire plane, right? This looks like it has edges, doesn't it? Right? Because there's no way that I could draw this so big, and keep on. I mean, you wouldn't see the edges there, right? If I drop this back to there, you wouldn't see the edges to it, but it's got some edges. But an actual plane doesn't have any edges to it, but there's no way to actually draw that. So we just have to understand that this just keeps going forever and ever. So this side would keep on going, this side would keep, this one keep going forever and ever and ever, all right? So that's basically what a plane is, a flat surface made up of a whole bunch of points that extends infinitely. And this says in 2 dimensions. Well, what is that? It means like left and right, up and down, okay? It doesn't come off of the page. It's not 3-dimensional. It doesn't come off like this, okay? But there's planes all over the place. I mean, this piece of paper, if I could make this completely flat, would represent a plane, okay? So there's planes all over the place. So what we're concerned about today more than anything is how to label this thing. And here's how we label it. We use a lowercase letter, and we put it in one of the corners. All right, let's just, we'll use B, because that looks different than an uppercase B, so I'll use B. So if I put a B in that corner, then that named the plane. Okay, we could name this plane what? Plane B. All right, I'll put it in quotes. Why do I put it in quotation? Because that's what we what? It's what we say. It's what we say out of our mouth, okay? That's why I put it in quotes. So we would call this, what? Plane B. Everybody with me on that? What if I didn't? Now, it doesn't have to be in the top right-hand corner. It could have been over here. It could have been here. It could have been here. Here's another way to name a plane. If I have 3 points, oops, that's us already. Let's finish this one up. If I have 3 points, A, B, I said let's finish this up, and everybody's packing up. A, B, and C. Then I would name this plane, and there's no symbol for it. You just write the word plane. You would call this plane what? A, B, C. How many points do you use to name a plane? Only 3. Not more, not less. Exactly 3 points. Okay, we'll finish this up, I guess, on Wednesday. All right, so we're already off on our lesson plans because Wednesday it's got me doing the next lesson, but that's fine. We'll do the definitions. So we did the undefined terms. Wednesday we'll do the definitions. Tomorrow we got the retreat, obviously. So you can keep your book in your locker. And that's it. So no homework tonight.